Dear Starseeds, I want you to understand something crucial before we go any further. Today is not a deadline. It's a doorway that opens widest for those who have been wandering in the dark, wondering if they missed their turn. The energy surrounding this portal has a specific signature, one that searches for exhaustion rather than exuberance, for surrender rather than striving. While others celebrate those who planned and prepared, I come with a different message, one the Galactic Federation has asked me to deliver to those who have felt lost, left behind, or late to every awakening that seemed to pass them by. I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light. There's something the Federation wants you to understand about how cosmic portals actually work. They don't scan for the brightest light or the highest vibration. They scan for readiness. And readiness, dear ones, often looks like someone who has finally stopped pretending. Today carries a frequency that only appears when multiple numerical harmonics align in a way that won't repeat for years. The day itself, 11, carries the master number frequency of illumination and awakening. January, the first month, contributes the vibration of 1, the initiator, and when you reduce 2026 to its core essence, it becomes 10, which further reduces to 1. This creates a 1-to-1-1 sequence, a triple activation code that the Federation describes as a singular point of focused transformation. But here's what they're not telling you in the mainstream spiritual communities. This portal doesn't scatter its energy across your entire existence. It's far more precise than that. And what it targets in your life will depend entirely on where you've been carrying the heaviest weight without even realizing it. Some of you will feel this portal lock onto a relationship that's been suspended in a state of painful uncertainty. Others will experience it as a sudden clarity about your life's purpose that has eluded you despite years of searching. For many of you, it will descend upon your sense of identity itself, finally dissolving the version of yourself you've been performing for others while the real you has been suffocating beneath the surface. The Federation has shown me something remarkable. This portal doesn't heal everything at once, because healing everything at once would shatter your human nervous system. Instead, it finds the single point of highest leverage, the domino that, when it falls, creates a cascade of transformation across multiple areas of your life. And I'll tell you something else they've revealed. By the time you finish reading this transmission, that point will have already been identified within your energetic field. The portal is scanning you right now. Let me share something that might relieve the burden you've been carrying. The Galactic Federation operates on a completely different timeline than human consciousness. What you perceive as being late to your awakening is actually you arriving at the exact cosmic moment when your specific frequency signature is needed most. Think of it this way. If everyone awakened at the same time, there would be no one to hold space for those still sleeping. If everyone ascended on the same schedule, the collective vibration would collapse rather than elevate. You're not behind. You're strategically positioned in the grand architecture of Earth's transformation. This is why this portal has a peculiar relationship with what humans call failure, or falling behind. From the Federation's perspective, these aren't delays, they're incubation periods. Every moment you spent feeling lost was actually you gathering the exact experiences you'll need to guide others who will feel lost in the future. But there's something else happening today that most won't notice. The portal doesn't just offer you activation, it offers you protection. And this protection operates in a way that's both subtle and profound. While everyone focuses on what spiritual portals bring into their lives, the Federation wants you to understand what this one takes away. And this removal process might be the greatest gift you receive, though you won't recognize it immediately. Starting today, certain energetic attachments that have been draining your life force will begin to dissolve. Not through your effort, not through your willpower, but through a recalibration of your energetic boundaries that happens automatically when the portal's frequency runs through your system. You might notice over the coming weeks that conversations which once hooked you emotionally suddenly feel irrelevant. People who used to trigger intense reactions in you will seem to lose their power. Situations that once sent you into spirals of anxiety or anger will bounce off you as though hitting an invisible shield. This isn't numbness. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This is discernment operating at a cellular level. The Federation describes this as frequency-based sovereignty. Your energy field is being upgraded to naturally repel anything that doesn't match your emerging frequency. Think of it as your consciousness developing an immune system against energetic vampirism. And here's where it gets interesting, where it connects to something the Federation has been preparing you for, though you may not have realized it yet. Because this protection isn't just about your present circumstances. It's preparation for what's coming in the months ahead, when you'll need to maintain your center while everything around you accelerates into chaos. But before I reveal what's coming, you need to understand why this portal appears at the exact moments when people are ready to quit. The Arcturian Council has shown me something that appears in the Akashic records with stunning consistency. The 1111 frequency doesn't broadcast itself during your victories. It doesn't flash at you when you're confident, inspired, or feeling aligned with your purpose. It appears when you're drained, when you've reached the point where your energy no longer matches the expectations you've placed on yourself or that others have placed on you. When you've quietly given up, not in defeat, but in honest recognition that you cannot carry what you've been carrying any longer. For some of you, this portal appeared in your awareness right after you released a goal you'd been dragging behind you like a corpse. For others, it surfaced the moment you whispered to yourself, "I don't know what to do anymore." For many, it arrived when you emotionally checked out of a situation, not to abandon it, but because continuing to force it would have broken something essential inside you. This is the deepest secret of the 1111 portal. It doesn't activate in forward motion. It activates in surrender. Not the defeated kind of surrender where you collapse into victimhood. The honest kind, where you finally admit that the path you've been forcing yourself down was never meant for you in the first place. The Federation calls this the checkpoint of authentic alignment. It's the moment when your soul can finally override your conditioning because your ego is too exhausted to maintain its performance. And in that moment of raw honesty, the portal can reach you, because here's what they want you to understand. You didn't fail. You reached the natural limit of a path that was designed to end exactly where it ended. The struggle wasn't preparation for something greater on that same path. The struggle was meant to show you that the path itself needed to change, and this is where the portal's real gift reveals itself, not by pushing you forward on a broken road, but by quietly opening a new one you couldn't see while you were still trying to make the old one work. Here's something the Federation wants you to prepare for, though it might seem anticlimactic at first. Tomorrow will probably feel normal. You won't wake up with fireworks exploding in your consciousness. You won't experience sudden clarity that reorganizes your entire understanding of reality. You might not feel anything particularly special at all, and this is exactly how the portal works most powerfully. The 1111 frequency doesn't create dramatic events. It creates subtle shifts in trajectory. These shifts are so slight that your conscious mind won't register them. But over the coming weeks and months, you'll look back and realize that something fundamental changed without you noticing the exact moment it happened. The Galactic Federation describes this as quantum course correction. Imagine a ship traveling across an ocean. If you adjust its heading by just a few degrees, it doesn't feel like anything changed in the moment. But over time, that tiny adjustment means the ship arrives at a completely different destination. That's what's happening to you today. You might find yourself making a choice in a few weeks that you never would have made before, not because you consciously decided to change, but because the portal recalibrated your decision-making matrix at a subconscious level. You might sidestep a situation that would have consumed months of your energy. You'll think it's coincidence or good timing. You won't realize the portal removed you from that timeline before you could walk into it. You might meet someone who becomes significant to your journey. A teacher, an ally, a mirror for your next evolution. It will feel like natural synchronicity. You won't see the Federation's hand gently arranging the circumstances that made that meeting possible. This is the genius of today's portal. It doesn't overwhelm you with mystical experiences that your rational mind will later dismiss. It integrates so seamlessly into your reality that it becomes your reality. The changes feel like they're coming from you, which means your ego doesn't resist them. And there's something else the Federation wants you to know about how this plays out. Something about protection that won't make sense until months from now, when you realize what you avoided. One of the most profound aspects of this portal is what the Arcturian Council calls preventative grace. This is when the universe saves you from a situation not by rescuing you from it, but by ensuring you never enter it in the first place. Months from now, you'll look back and notice that something which could have devastated you simply didn't happen. A commitment you almost made but somehow didn't. A path you were about to walk down that quietly closed before you took the first step. A person who was entering your life with the potential to cause significant harm, who mysteriously faded away before the connection deepened. You won't attribute this to the portal because there's nothing dramatic to point to. You'll just feel grateful that things worked out without understanding that the working out was orchestrated by frequencies beyond your conscious awareness. The Federation has shown me timelines, possible futures that branch from each decision point. What they've revealed about today is that the portal doesn't just activate your potential. It prunes timelines that would lead to unnecessary suffering. Think of it as cosmic gardening. The gardener doesn't just plant seeds. They also remove weeds before those weeds can choke the growing plants. That's what's happening in your life right now, though you can't see the weeds that are being removed because they exist in potential futures, rather than your present reality. This is why gratitude for what doesn't happen is sometimes more appropriate than gratitude for what does. But how can you be grateful for disasters you never experienced, for heartbreaks you never endured, for burnout you never reached? You can't, which is why this form of divine intervention remains invisible to most people. The Galactic Federation operates with such precision that their greatest gifts often go completely unnoticed, and they prefer it this way because recognition isn't the goal. Your evolution is, but there's another layer to this that I need to reveal. Something about chapters from your past that are about to become relevant again in ways you never expected. The Federation has given me permission to share something that might bring tears to some of you who are reading this. This portal doesn't just move you forward, it reaches backward into your timeline and retrieves pieces of your destiny that were put on hold. Every person carrying a human consciousness has at least one dream that was interrupted, not because it failed, but because you weren't ready to carry its weight at that time. Something that lit you up, that felt aligned with your soul's purpose, but that slipped away when life demanded survival instead of expansion. Maybe it was a creative calling that got buried under practical responsibilities. Maybe it was a vision for how you wanted to contribute to the world that seemed impossible with your circumstances at the time. Maybe it was a version of yourself that was beginning to emerge, confident, expressive, free, only to be shut down by trauma, criticism, or the overwhelming pressure to conform. The 111 portal has a unique relationship with these abandoned dreams. It doesn't resurrect them in their original form. It brings them forward, updated, evolved, matched to who you are now, rather than who you were then. Over the coming weeks, you might find yourself thinking about something you once wanted but couldn't maintain, not with sadness or regret, but with a strange sense of curiosity, as though that dream is tapping on your consciousness, asking if you're ready now. You might feel a spark of interest toward an ambition you haven't touched in years, not the desperate grasping energy of trying to recapture the past, but a calm recognition that this direction was never wrong, the timing was simply premature. The Arcturian Council describes this as temporal recalibration of soul contracts. In essence, certain agreements your soul made before incarnating couldn't be fulfilled during specific life periods because you needed to develop capacities first. Those agreements were never canceled. They were deferred, and the deferral period is ending. This is why some of you have been feeling a strange restlessness lately, as though something is trying to remember itself through you. That's not anxiety. That's your soul preparing to retrieve aspects of your purpose that were temporarily stored in the quantum field, waiting for you to evolve into the version of yourself that could actually embody them. But here's what makes this process both powerful and challenging. When these dreams return, they won't ask for permission. They'll simply start making themselves known through impulses, intuitions, and synchronicities that you'll need to trust without having all the answers. Which brings me to something crucial the Federation wants you to understand about why this specific moment in 2026 cannot be recreated or repeated. Let me be direct with you about something the Galactic Federation has emphasized repeatedly. You cannot manufacture this portal's effects through ritual, intention setting, or trying to force the symbolism into existence on another date. If you need help accessing this portal's authentic effects rather than trying to manufacture them through forced rituals or intention setting, Destiny Engine can reprogram your consciousness to align with the portal's genuine frequency and recognize its presence beyond artificial symbolism. When you sign up for the $1 trial, you will receive 14 days of guidance on how to reshape your subconscious for 5D needs with the Destiny Engine. The hardest thing you'll have to do is put on headphones, press play, and allow your consciousness to be reprogrammed to access the portal's effects in their authentic form, rather than forcing them through manufactured rituals. The portal's power is accessible through genuine alignment, not forced symbolism. Get your Destiny Engine $1 trial now, before this authentic access window closes. Link in the description. This moment is powerful not because of the numbers alone, but because of where it falls within multiple overlapping cycles, cosmic, collective, and personal. From a cosmic perspective, the numerical sequence of 111 creates what the Federation calls a unified field of initiation. This is rare enough on its own, but it's landing at a point in Earth's collective consciousness when humanity is globally fatigued from years of upheaval, uncertainty, and forced transformation. People are tired of trying, tired of forcing, tired of performing strength they don't feel. This collective exhaustion creates a kind of energetic softness, an openness born not from enlightenment, but from the simple human recognition that we cannot continue at the pace and pressure we've been maintaining. That collective vulnerability is the foundation the portal needs to work with. Without it, the 111 frequency would bounce off humanity's collective shield of busyness, ambition, and spiritual bypassing. But with it, the portal can actually penetrate deep enough to create lasting change. On a personal level, you're at a point in your own cycle where you're finally honest with yourself in ways you weren't 6 months ago. You've stopped pretending certain things are working when they're not. You've released some of the performances that were exhausting you. You've admitted, at least internally, that you don't have everything figured out. This honesty creates the opening. The Federation wants you to understand that trying to recreate this moment later would be like trying to open a door that only exists during a specific convergence of circumstances. Once the alignment shifts, once the collective energy changes, once your personal cycle moves to a different phase, the door isn't gone, but it's no longer accessible in the same way. You could sit with the same intentions, perform the same rituals, focus on the same numbers, but without this specific intersection of cosmic timing, collective exhaustion, and personal readiness, the effect would be completely different. This isn't meant to create fear of missing out. It's meant to help you recognize the gift of now, not because now is your last chance, but because now is when the universe has assembled every element needed to support your transformation, with the least resistance. And this brings me to something that might surprise you about how this portal's energy actually manifests in your day-to-day experience. There's a fascinating tension built into today's date that most people won't notice, but that the Galactic Federation wants you to understand, because it explains why you might feel pulled in multiple directions simultaneously. The Day 11 carries intense, amplified energy. It's the master number of illumination, the frequency that heightens awareness and pushes truth toward the surface. It makes you suddenly notice things that have been obvious for months, but somehow remained hidden in plain sight. It's direct, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore once it begins moving through your consciousness. The month 1 carries a completely different tone. It's not intense, it's directional. It represents the first step, the initial breath, the spark that doesn't require a plan because its only purpose is to get things moving again. The month's energy isn't about pressure, it's about orientation. It says, look here, move this way, start small but start clean. And then you have the year 2026, which reduces to 1000, echoing the theme of initiation but with a softer landing. Where the month offers direction, the year offers simplicity. It strips away the mental and emotional clutter you've been carrying, reminding you that beginnings don't need to be complicated to be powerful. When these 3 numerical frequencies converge, they create what the Arcturian Council calls productive dissonance. The day amplifies everything, the month points you somewhere new, and the year simplifies your path. This is why you might feel simultaneously intensified and clarified today. Why certain things suddenly feel urgent while others feel unnecessary. Why you might experience both a push to move forward and a pull to simplify first. This isn't confusion, it's calibration. The portal is adjusting multiple aspects of your being at once. Your awareness, your direction, and your discernment about what's actually essential versus what's just noise. And when intensity, direction, and simplicity collide at the same time, life doesn't explode, it rearranges. It pulls you out of the maze of overthinking and places you at the next clear opening. You won't necessarily know where that opening leads, but you'll know it feels more aligned than where you've been circling. Let me share something the Galactic Federation has asked me to emphasize, because it contradicts most of what human spirituality teaches about transformation. Real salvation is rarely dramatic. When people hear the word salvation, They imagine cinematic moments, sudden miracles, massive breakthroughs, cosmic interventions that flip their entire world upside down. But from the Federation's perspective, that's not how genuine spiritual salvation operates. True salvation is quiet protection from suffering you never even realized you were approaching. This portal offers several forms of salvation that you won't notice immediately because they operate through prevention rather than rescue. It protects you from exhaustion you hadn't reached yet, the burnout you were slowly heading toward without realizing it. Months from now, you might look back and recognize that you avoided a level of overwhelm that would have completely taken you out. Not because you made all the right choices, but because the portal gently redirected your path before you hit that breaking point. It spares you from commitments you would have regretted, obligations that seem harmless now, but would have weighed you down later. Maybe it's a responsibility you almost agreed to. Maybe it's a relationship dynamic you were about to re-enter. Maybe it's a goal you were chasing out of habit, rather than genuine desire. The portal nudges these paths to fade just enough that you don't step into versions of your life that weren't built for who you're becoming. And perhaps most importantly, it releases you from the need to prove things that never actually mattered. You stop fighting for validation from people who will never understand your path. You stop performing strength you don't feel. You stop justifying your choices to others whose opinions have no real bearing on your destiny. There's a profound liberation in this shift, a quiet but powerful relief that rewrites your internal rhythm entirely. The Arcturian Council wants you to know, peace isn't something you gain from the external world. Peace is what you stop giving away to things that were never meant to have access to your energy in the first place. This portal intervenes without force. It shifts you without breaking you. It guides you without demanding grand gestures or perfect timing. There's no dramatic cosmic storm to survive, no emotional purge to endure, no spiritual test to pass. It's simply the universe smoothing the road in front of you so you don't stumble where you once would have. Here's something the Federation wants you to prepare for. Most people will completely misattribute what happens in their lives over the next several months. Someone will narrowly avoid a draining commitment and explain it as a scheduling conflict or a last-minute change of heart. They won't realize the portal removed them from that timeline before they had a chance to walk into it. Someone else will meet a person who becomes crucial to their next evolution. A mentor, a collaborator, a mirror for aspects of themselves they hadn't integrated yet. They'll call it luck or coincidence, not understanding that the Federation gently arranged the circumstances that made that meeting possible. Opportunities will appear in ways that feel completely natural, as though they were always going to happen. A job opening arrives at the perfect moment. A message comes through with information you needed exactly when you needed it. A door you didn't know existed quietly slides toward you. It won't feel magical because nothing about it disrupts your reality. It fits into your life so seamlessly that you'll assume it would have happened anyway. But the truth is, the portal shifted probabilities in your favor, collapsing timelines that served you, and dissolving timelines that would have led to unnecessary struggle. There will also be internal changes you won't credit to the portal. Situations that used to trigger intense reactions will suddenly lose their power. Patterns that kept you in loops for years will simply stop running. Anxiety that felt permanent will begin to fade. Not because you fought it, but because the energetic hooks were gently removed while you were focused elsewhere. You'll think you've matured. You'll believe you're finally over it. You'll assume you just got tired of the same old patterns. And while these things might be partially true, the deeper truth is that the portal freed you from battles you were never meant to keep fighting. This is what makes the 1111 portal so believable in hindsight, and so easy to dismiss in the moment. It improves your life in ways that feel practical, realistic, human, not mystical or prophetic, just smoother somehow. The Galactic Federation operates with such precision that their most powerful interventions often go completely unnoticed. They could make themselves obvious. They could create unmistakable signs and dramatic synchronicities that force you to acknowledge their presence. But they don't, because recognition isn't the goal. Your evolution is. An evolution that happens naturally, that feels like it's coming from within you rather than being imposed from above, is the kind that actually lasts. Let me close with something the Arcturian Council has emphasized throughout this transmission. This portal doesn't require your belief to work. It doesn't need your rituals, your crystals, your meditations, or your manifestation practices. Though if those things bring you comfort and connection, by all means continue them. But understand this. The 1111 frequency is already operating in your field, whether you consciously acknowledge it or not. The recalibration is already happening. The timelines are already shifting. The protection is already in place. Your awareness of the portal simply allows you to work with it consciously, rather than unconsciously. It allows you to notice the subtle shifts as they happen, rather than only recognizing them months later. It allows you to trust the process when things don't make sense yet. But it doesn't make you more or less worthy of the portal's gifts. The Federation wants you to release any anxiety about doing this right, or maximizing the portal's potential through perfect spiritual practice. That anxiety itself is the old paradigm trying to maintain control. The paradigm where you have to earn transformation through effort, where you're responsible for forcing alignment into existence. The new paradigm, the one this portal is ushering you toward, works differently. Transformation happens through allowance rather than effort, through honesty rather than performance, through surrender rather than striving. Your only job today, and in the days and weeks that follow, is to stay honest with yourself. Notice what feels true and what feels like performance. Notice what energizes you and what depletes you. Notice what you're doing because it genuinely calls to you, versus what you're doing because you think you should. That's it. That's the whole practice. The portal will handle everything else. It will rearrange your external circumstances to match your internal truth. It will bring forward opportunities that align with your authentic direction, while quietly closing doors that lead to paths you've outgrown. It will strengthen your energetic boundaries so you naturally repel what doesn't serve you. And it will resurrect dreams that were never meant to die but only to wait for you to become the person who could carry them. The Galactic Federation of Light stands witness to your transformation, not as distant observers but as active participants in the grand awakening that Earth is moving through. We celebrate your arrival at this threshold, dear Starseeds, not because you've achieved perfection, but because you've achieved honesty. And in the cosmic order of things, honesty is the only preparation transformation ever truly needs. Whatever tomorrow brings, move through it gently. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to chase anything. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just stay honest. The rest will meet you exactly where you are. The portal has already begun. I love you and we are watching over you.